The powers of Volodymyr Zelenskyy will be extended due to the impossibility of holding presidential elections in Ukraine. However, Russia, as expected, is strenuously trying to discredit President Zelenskyy. They say, according to the constitution, the president of Ukraine is elected for 5 years, and the term of office of the current president should have ended on May the 20th, 2024.
Vladimir Putin attempted to further known Russian information operations intended to directly undermine Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy's legitimacy as president. Putin additionally claimed that Ukraine's political and legal systems must determine if Zelenskyy will still be considered Ukraine's legitimate president when his first term technically expires on May 20th. From a report by the Institute for the Study of War.
The main task of the Russian psychological operations is to demoralize Ukrainians and suppress their resistance. After all, the Russian army cannot do this on the battlefield. Russians plan to use social networks to spread disinformation about the mobilization and legitimacy of the Ukrainian government.
It had no strategic success all these 3 years. There will be 3 years of the war soon. They decided to shake up society, shake up the rear, in order to make this task easier. But so far we have not seen any signs that society has really doubted whether parliament is legitimate.
Russia's attempts to sow confusion among the citizens of Ukraine and Western partners are pointless, as Ukrainians themselves say. After all actions of the Ukrainian government are legal, unlike the Russian government, where at the request of the Kremlin the constitution is rewritten in order to reset the terms of Putin's tenure as president. The legitimacy of the president of Ukraine is determined by Article 108 of the constitution. It states that after the expiration of a 5-year term, the powers of the president do not automatically terminate. They will stop only after the inauguration of the newly elected president.
The constitution was, by nature, a political compromise, but it was also drafted explicitly with the possibility of a Russian invasion in mind. Many of the deputies who sat in a constitutional commission were dissidents, seasoned by decades in the Gulag. They knew what Russia was about and even told me, Roman Besmertny, a former deputy prime minister, how things could end. There is no internal demand for elections during war. The Economist publication writes.
Earlier, Verkhovna Rada spokesperson Ruslan Stefanchuk also explained that the constitution of Ukraine does not prohibit holding elections during war. At the same time, the ban is contained precisely in the law on the legal regime of martial law.
The martial law statute directly prohibits holding elections, and since the legislation regulating elections has a number of requirements regarding how and by what standards they are conducted, we also understand perfectly well that it is impossible to ensure these standards. After all, there are provisions in the legislation as well as in the constitution regarding parliament. For example, there is a direct rule that prohibits holding elections during martial law. Our partners, of course, agree with this. And society in Ukraine perfectly understands and agrees that it is not worth holding elections in Ukraine before the end of martial law, and it is practically impossible.
In addition, paragraph 4 of Article 11 of the Constitution says that the powers of the President of Ukraine, provided for by the Constitution of Ukraine, cannot be limited under martial law. There is no doubt about the legitimacy of the Ukrainian government among its Western allies, while the current Russian government is precisely not legitimate, experts emphasize. After all, since 2018, all elections in Russia have been held, taking into account illegal voting in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine.
The Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe called on European governments to recognize Vladimir Putin as illegitimate after the end of his current presidential term and to cease all contact with him except for humanitarian purposes and in the pursuit of peace. From the text of the resolution of the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe of April 17, 2024.
The legitimacy of Volodymyr Zelenskyy is based not only on legal positions, but also on the support of Ukrainian citizens, political scientists say. Today, the president's main task remains to defend Ukrainian territories, especially amid Russia's offensive in the Kharkiv region and the possible threat from the Sumy region, experts emphasize. Reported by Діана Колесник, Юлія Грановська, UATV News.